Steger, and I quote, relentlessly drives his material point home. A simple particle is always a particle, never a wave. When teachers say and authors say an electron is either a particle or a wave, they are using sloppy language. Steger maintains that reality exists that is independent of what people think about it. CAMs, the religious and the spiritual practitioners who tell people that they can change reality, attracting health, wealth, and long life, even immortality, by thinking about it hard enough and in the proper way, are not practicing science. They have reverted to a type of voodoo or shamanism. It would be nice to think ourselves well or rich or immortal and to become so as the results of our thoughts and prayers. Hemingway, the 20th century author, ironically said in Pleasant Fantasies, "Isn't it pretty to think so?" Spiritual practitioners poke at science and medicine by insisting that these fields have many unanswered questions. Science does not know everything yet and may never know all the answers to the universe, the world, consciousness, and the best way to treat fragile, illness-prone, injury-prone human beings. By rejecting sound science and medicine, spiritual healers and believers think they've replaced it with something equally scientific, but more spiritual. Such nonsense resonates with the Christian idea of the God of the gaps. Christians and others believe God can be found in those gaps where science has not yet found answers. But science continues to fill in those gaps, and God is slowly being forced out. The same thing is happening in medicine as well. The gaps in our knowledge of disease, injury, genetics, and so on keep filling in with patient testing and retesting of theories, medicines, and surgical techniques. I would like to ask all of us in the secular community to keep our skepticism as atheists. We have rejected the notion of a transcendent other and of a transcendent reality somewhere beyond us by paying heed to science and using our skepticism and common sense. Shall we be led back to fantasy and non-rationality by the practitioners of delusion? An art critic, Ken Johnson, stated in the New York Times, as science eroded belief in distinctly embodied gods, poets reconceived divinity as an all-pervading energy. Why should some of the secular community give assent to the fantasy of an all-pervading energy? It is obviously a reconception of a transcendent reality that does not exist except in the minds of those who embrace it. Let us spend our money and time on books, films, sports, atheist causes, and charities that need us, or simply activities that please us, and not throw our time and resources away on prayers or on quantum quacks. Let us reduce their significance with the skeptical laughter of enlightened thinkers. We do not need their crutches or their placebos. Let us face reality with sound judgment, with reason, and with courage.
Hear, hear.
Very well done.
Hear, hear.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
It's not the God delusion, is it?
No, that's
No.
Dawkins.
But he wrote the God failed hypothesis.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote the failed hypothesis.
Yeah,
That's
failed
the guy
hypothesis.
But I can't
But
think
the
of that
latest,
book.
he
Jim was
wrote
just,
Quantum Gods. Quantum Gods.
I can't, did he write that? I can't remember.
Failed
He wrote so
hypothesis.
many.
But the latest one,
That's a good one. I can't remember the title. I have it here. Oh, I don't have the bib with me. It's in the bib on this because I quoted him several times. That's very good. He covers a lot of topics.
but he says that electron is not both a wave and a particle.
No, it isn't at the same time. I
At the
think
same
that's what he
time.
means.
That's what
You
he's
know,
trying to
because
say.
if you measure it,
You
it
need to
collapses and then it becomes a wave.
Yeah.
And then if you measure it or try to do something to it again, then it collapses and becomes like a particle. So I think what he's trying to say, it's always hard to understand it if you're not a physicist. I have trouble because, I'm not good in science yet. It's never both at the same time. He thinks that's sloppy
Well,
when
why
they
does
start.
that dispute these New Age quantum theorists?
Well, let me see, because he's saying that, it's not either or, it's not something that's like indefinite and vague, and that's what they've picked up on.
Vagueness.
Yeah, and we can look at it and it'll become like a wave or a particle, and we're doing it. I think that's what he's trying to say.
As if we're controlling.
Yeah, because that's what Philip Clayton says.
Yeah.
The observer is doing a constitutive role. Well, not really, it's just the thing is reacting to being measured in some way. We don't even know exactly why, yeah. Very clever of them, really. they don't end, you know? I mean, you knock one thing down and 10, 100
They pop
pop
right
up.
back up again.
Yeah,
Now we have them using quantum mechanics.
That movie was so ridiculous.
I watched it too.
I saw it, yeah, I saw it, I hate to say, with my friend in California, Tina Kimmel, and she loved it. So it's like she's, you know, in a different way.
A lot of people are into this, like, they just, well, reality, you know, T.S. Eliot is religious, but he said reality is very difficult for people to bear, and I think he's right, it's very hard.
T.S. Eliot?
Yeah, actually, he was like a real Anglican, a real Christian. But I think that he knew that how hard it was to bear. And reality is hard to bear.
This is fascinating, Mary, really. I could listen to another couple hours of this.
You know, I had fun doing it. I really had fun, because you know how it irritates the shit out of me, that energy shit that they do, and then the shit about those alternative treatments, and I just go nuts.
I wish Chris had been here to listen to it.
I think that started to inspire me when you were telling me her mother was into healing touch or something, and I don't know, it set off something.
Yeah, Reiki, and she'd have these magazines, Science and Health, or something like that. It was all spiritualism about mind over matter, but it was trying to cast itself as scientific.
Sure, because, you know, and it doesn't work. I mean, you know, well, it works temporarily.
Yeah, I have questions. I'll wait for them to come back. But
Well, the doctors do that too.
yeah, I don't think they're any better because they're not really following up to see whether they're these.
No, and they know a
things
lot
are
of times
healing.
it's psychological, but they're busy and they, you know.
They're going on gut instinct, but that's very flawed.
Like I think I gotta change eye doctors, like the guy that is trying to tell me that I have some drusense, and 1 in 10 people get macular with that. And he was trying to tell me that those multivitamins, and I am still taking them, but I'm going to a different specialist, would reduce the risk. And it just didn't sound right, because so I started to research it, and I read, and it was like only about a 10 to 15%. And he was furious when I asked him about it. And I figured, you know, like, I don't want to go to this guy anymore.
Was he selling the vitamins?
Yeah, but they all do, so I hardly think, you know, it's only about $100 for a year's supply. I don't
But
think he
that's-
was making much money.
But that's part of the bias, though. I mean, that has to
Yeah.
be part of it.
But I mean, you
Eye
know,
doctor was selling vitamins?
they all do now,
Isn't that
yeah.
terrible?
Oh, a lot of them do.
Oh, really? Yours doesn't?
No.
Good for
But
him.
but is it for any, are they specialists, or
Mine
are
is.
they just a normal eye
Just in
doctor?
general, but he's an ophthalmologist. I
Okay.
mean, he's not just an optometrist.
Okay, an
Okay.
ophthalmologist.
But no, he's not a specialist.
Well, because I noticed Jim is one of the Detroit's top docs, Verb, and I noticed that they're selling it in his office too. So, you
Isn't
know,
that terrible?
and that can be dangerous, you know, they check to see, you know, how many years you've stopped smoking, you know,
Yeah.
because that can set off like lung cancer and stuff. But I'm a little suspicious, so I think I'm gonna try another doctor. I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask him some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
go to
my
Pete's
research
side.
is fine, yeah.
Mine's at Novi. Talk about a long
Yeah,
trip.
no, I've got a
Oh,
couple,
wow.
I've got about 2 good ones. We don't have a lot of really great doctors on the east side, but I have 2 lined up, so I'm gonna, I hate to go through all those tests again because it's lengthy, you know,
Yeah.
and they dilate your eyes and blah, 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 so, but I'm
Doesn't
gonna do
matter.
it.
I've memorized my doctor's eye chart.
Oh my God, is that funny?
He accuses me of doing that.
Ah, they're not so dumb, are
Yeah.
they?
He caught it.
They're crazy though, you know, they have this stupid machine to see if you have any blind spots.
Yeah.
And, you know, they say hit it every time you see a light. Well, by the time you're dilated, sometimes you think you see a light, and they
I
said
know.
that if you think you see a light, hit it. So they had one doctor, thank goodness he's not there anymore. And, I mean, this is ridiculous. He came in and he said, you cheated on your test.
Cheated?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I cheated on the
You're a psychic.
test. Yeah. So I don't know what he was talking about. I have no idea. So I didn't even ask him. I said, oh boy, you know. But he's not with them anymore. Maybe he told too many patients that. Okay, go.
The biggest question I have that wasn't answered in this lecture is, why do atheists fall for these kind of irrational medicinal beliefs?
Because hope is a thing with feathers. As Hemingway
Even if they don't
Dickens
believe in
said.
God, they
Yeah.
discarded that hope.
Yeah.
they still are not immune to.
No, I don't think atheists are immune enough from a lot of things, to tell you the truth. And I know I'm probably saying something very controversial, but many think that because they don't believe in God, that they've become so enlightened and they go ahead and accept something else. And I'm sorry, I make apologies because most atheists are not like that. But there are some, and you know there are some that embrace the craziest conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
very irritating, you know.
They even make discs about it.
Yeah.
People will go unnamed.
Yeah, we've received some of those.
You know, Mary, you've demonstrated that the placebo effect has a real effect on some of these diseases.
Yeah.
And so I think we're faced with a dilemma that if it does in fact have a benefit, then it is a treatment. So withholding that treatment, wouldn't that be considered unethical?
Well, I don't think not really, Norm, because, you know, take a look. It's not really curing anything. It's not curing cancer. You notice that the test that Kapchuk done, he'd like to find something good in placebos. Those patients all reported the 4 different treatments that
He
they
asked
felt
them?
better. Yeah, but only the ones that received the real medicine had improved lung function. So it's very dangerous to play around with this stuff.
So are you stating that the placebo really didn't have biological outcome?
No, it didn't. And he measured it himself, and he and his researchers were dying to find out the
Yeah.
opposite.
But you said there were changes in the biochemistry of the brain
That
because of the.
that was in the body itself, and that's what the Benedetti group found. And they're
the
still
body.
investigating it. That is a strange experiment.
But it didn't change anything, didn't make the person
It was just for
resistant to
pain.
cancer.
It was just for
Yeah.
pain, but it didn't cure anything. No. No, they just noticed it, and they were quite astounded themselves. Now we'll have to follow this up a long time.
I guess so. I've
Yeah.
got problems with that one too. This
I do too.
placebo is, I mean, I thought a placebo, well, it's sugar water, it's grape juice, it's, you
Yeah.
know, whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's nothing. It's water with food coloring in it,
Yeah.
ideally, something like that.
Yeah.
And yet this thing is gonna make biological changes in my body? That sounds like a poorly chosen placebo.
I don't think so. I
No,
think
it's
that
not,
they.
it's not the chemicals in the placebo, it's the body's
Your
doing
own.
that.
Okay?
Once you receive it, and
The
so
body's doing it.
apparently there's some kind of
And then the
mind-body
body's manufacturing
connection.
it.
Yeah, it's not the
Well,
placebo, but
It's not, there's nothing in that that could possibly do that.
I find it
it's
kind of
sugar and whatever it
frightening
is.
because some of these people want
That's
to give us
fascinating.
placebos instead of, you know, medicine. And, you know, that's not gonna cure anything. It just temporarily help people's pain.
Well, if what's wrong with you is pain,
Yeah.
it's gonna cure it.
Yeah, well, it didn't really cure it, it just temporarily helped
Relieved
it
it.
as well,
Back down.
about as well as the painkillers that they administered to other patients, like morphine. It worked just about as well. And it was always temporary. And it's just at the beginning of this, but I think that these researchers are ethical. And I think that, you know, when they keep following it up, maybe we'll find something more.
So the result is really not anything much. We
No.
already knew that if you give people a
Sure,
placebo,
they feel better.
they feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now somebody's tracked that a step farther. Why do they feel better? Well, the stuff
Yeah.
in there that makes us
Exactly.
feel better
The
was
brain
doing
is
Yeah,
actually
probably the brain
generating,
is doing
yeah, the brain is
something,
causing the
yeah.
body to
Yeah.
generate
Okay.
that
But
stuff.
I think nobody thought that that was the case
That chemical.
before. Yeah, that it
Well,
was
how would
actually
they think it?
biochemical.
What did they think? God was stepping down and
No, I
making
think
you
that
feel
they
good?
just thought it was completely psychological
Psychological
and
and
it
no
wasn't
physical.
really having any
Oh,
physical.
you didn't really
basis.
feel good, you just thought you
Yeah,
felt good.
exactly. Now, actually, you probably really feel good sometimes, at least
Okay.
for pain.
However,
It was very limited, and
you-
it was
would
just for
you-
pain.
if you had cancer and it was painful and you had to depend on morphine or whatever the drug was, would you bank on that placebo
I'd go
working?
for- I'd go for the
That's
morphine.
would
Morphine,
that
me
work
But I mean,
all the time?
a placebo,
That would wear off so fast?
you can't tell me you're giving me a placebo and expect it to work, right?
Right.
Well, you can't-
Me, anybody.
No, because.
You have to
it
tell them it's a
won't work.
drug.
Yeah, if you tell me it's just grape juice, well,
Yeah.
I don't expect to feel good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right,
No.
that's right.
Yeah.
There was another study that you didn't cite, but I think was in the, one of the books that you mentioned, was the knee study where it was also a blinded, at least one side was blinded, where the patients were going to be operated on their knee for knee
Oh,
pain.
right, I remember that
And-
study.
and
No, I didn't cite that one.
Both
yeah.
groups underwent surgery, but one group didn't actually have anything done that was corrective. They
Just a little
cut into the-
incision,
they
a
just cut into
tiny.
the skin. And the other one actually had some of the meniscus or some of the flesh
Yeah.
altered, the tissue,
Uh-huh.
to try and fix the problem.
Yeah,
But they both reported improvement. See?
exactly. Yeah, I
So what's
remember
going
that
on,
study.
what is going on there?
It's a placebo effect, and you know, that's why you should be careful about getting surgery. You know, and you better research it yourself. This is what I found. This is like these
I think that's the
multivitamins.
embarrassment effect there. If I've gone in a hospital, been cut open, and I come home and I say, what, didn't it help me at all?
Yeah,
That's not what I want to
Yeah.
say.
Okay, so it's your expectation.
Yeah.
it's going down.
Well, it's my dignity among my fellow, you know,
Yeah.
my peers.
yeah, it's embarrassing.
Well, you could equally be suspicious that it wouldn't help. And some people would also say, well, the doctor screwed up, that I didn't go to a good doctor, or
Yeah.
I should have gone to a different
Yeah,
doctor.
yeah, that's another thing that people
Mhm.
say.
They're not
Yeah, oh, boy,
necessarily
that
gonna-
doctor really, you know, sucked, you know, I'll never go to somebody like that again.
Mhm.
It's really tricky. I have to be really in bad shape to get surgery on
My
this.
experience is that people that have surgery always claim it. It's
That they feel
improved them,
better?
Yeah.
Boy, I haven't, I've met some people that bitch.
Really?
Yeah, like crazy, like, boy, this was, I'll never do that again, yeah.
Mary, can you say some more about acupuncture? Because I still see studies that claim, that seem to be convincing, that it actually does work physiologically.
Yeah, I know, but
That is
apparently
effective.
I had seen some about 10 years ago that it helped sometimes for certain kinds of stroke and some other condition. And now apparently it doesn't seem to work at all. You might check the Cochrane collection.
So these films of the Chinese doing surgery after,
It just doesn't seem to
are
work.
they faking this?
I don't think so. I think that people are getting the placebo effect.
Because they claim that they have no anesthesia, they're going under surgery with
Well, Jim's gonna
needles.
have to cut this part, but his.
Don't use
card-
names,
his-
that's all.
His excellent cardiologist, who's really good and always scientific, had a very bad back, because, you know, and he was working emergency at the time and everything, and, you know, there was a lot of strain, and he, nothing would help it, and they finally, his colleagues recommended surgery, and he wasn't about darned to have surgery on his back, because you know how uncertain that is, and he went to acupuncture, and claimed, he swears by it, that he got better. He doesn't have any back pain, and he's overweight too, very overweight.
Yeah. So I'm still puzzled. With that case, I could say would be placebo, but
I
what
think
about the
so.
case while there's active, something else is actively going on that would cause pain, and these people are claiming they're not feeling it?
It's probably placebo.
Is that too placebo?
What do you think, Neil?
I don't know. I want pretty strict confirmation that this really happened.
Yeah, me too, that's
One.
another thing too.
Yeah.
Did those-
Two,
Did they,
that
had
they
they
weren't
had they given them
hypnotized
anything?
in some way.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
hypnosis, Norm.
Permanently?
No, just
Oh, during-
temporarily.
during the surgery,
yeah.
right?
So they would
Yeah.
not feel the effect of the scalpel.
So
Or
that
maybe
is one
they
of the
gave them a little,
theories.
maybe they gave them something to drink and there was stuff in it, you don't know, yeah.
So if
That's
I'll
a good
just,
point.
I'll just speak for the scientific acupuncturists, scientific in quotes, is they say, one is that the needles are causing the brain to emit opiates
Could be correct.
Could be.
to actually deal with the fact that there's a needle in their skin.
Yeah,
So that, the emission of these opiates is actually what's causing the pain relief in some other
that's
area.
quite possible.
And then there's the other one where the nerve is actually being temporarily overwhelmed with sensation, so it shuts down. And just
Yeah.
like a continuous sensation, you would begin to ignore.
Yeah.
So that is also shutting down what would have been a nerve response, that then you could do some cutting in that area. There was a big study, a National Institutes of Health funded study on
Yeah, that's
acupuncture,
trouble with those, yeah.
but they claim that there was a positive result
You know, there's.
for pain.
The latest research that I found, there was very little of any kind of effect, which surprised
Yeah.
me, because like I say, I had seen the earlier things, and it seemed like it did have some effect.
Because of all the things that you might measure, you know, you would
Acupuncture
think,
you can measure a little bit.
you would
but
think that somebody really couldn't fake not having severe pain.
I don't think it's working. I really don't,
Wow.
honestly.
Okay. Yeah, because I was called to task by one of the skeptics because I cited that study, and he said, no, that's still just junk science. The guy who was on the NIH panel was an acupuncturist. He
You
was
know,
fine.
that, did you see all the things that I mentioned that the NIH is funding and
Yeah,
doing? I mean,
they're
it's scary. I mean,
continuously
they're not.
coming up with junk like this.
You know, you always think that, I used to think that they were like, you know,
That's
like
it.
real
Ironclad.
scientists,
You
and
know,
they fund a lot of junk stuff. Which, I mean, maybe, I mean, if they fund something, we'll find something out. Who knows? But nothing has come about. This placebo thing with Kapchuk really upsets me, big time. You know, because, you know, they would like to use placebos to treat real biological diseases, and that would be awful.
And reduce the cost of Medicare.
Yeah,
Because, again, you're saying that it really doesn't have a biological result. But
no,
what about the antidepressants that are now shown to be equal to the placebos?
aren't those about the same? I mean,
I
aren't they
want to
foreign?
question that one. I was going to call you to task on that. You mentioned in passing that Prozac may be a placebo.
Yeah,
Reference for that?
reference, isn't Dr.
Good
Kirsch?
one.
Yeah,
Dr. Kirsch's book,
Dr. Kirsch's book.
Irrational
No, I mean, well, I don't.
Study?
I don't want to book.
Kirsch
I
has
want-
studies,
I'll be happy to email you that.
Study.
yeah.
Okay.
Norm can email you
Because
that.
that's one of my interests, actually, in
Ah,
recruiting.
yeah, you
antidepressants.
explained it to
good.
Pete, yeah.
These are in the last 5 years.
Just the thing is, I take an antidepressant and have for some time.
Okay.
And I guarantee you, it has an actual effect. If
Okay.
I forget to take it for a while, I feel bad. Well, I mean, what can I say? This is anecdotal, of course.
Okay,
But my anecdote is on the antidepressant to be effective. So I'm not just buying it, that
Okay.
antidepressants as a class are placebos.
well, I can't, you know, I've never had one, so I can't speak from experience.
The original physiology of why they thought these drugs work, these SSRIs, has already been shown to be wrong in the mainstream. That the SSRI explanation is not the reason, if there is a reason why these work, that's not the reason. That's been disproved. They don't know, except they continue to prescribe it. And I think some doctors would admit that there is a placebo effect to it. I think that's what they would say. That, oh, well, if he or she feels better, why not? You know, what's the big deal? Insurance covers it or whatever, but.
What made me kind of suspicious was that they've been finding out that the old ones were just as well as these newer ones that they touted to have such great effects, and that made me suspicious.
This is all, I'm sorry, I need to see the reference. This
Oh,
is
that's
all-
okay. No,
This
I
is
mean-
sounding very internet-y, you know, they're finding out, studies show.
Oh, no, it's not
No.
internet.
It's disturbing more than anything else. But no, I'm glad that you're skeptic about it. That's fine. That's why we're here. And really, that brings me, to my own question, is that in some ways we function as our own doctors. So that if I eat something for dinner and I wake up, 4 hours later with nausea,
You got it.
then I say, oh gee, it must be something that I ate for dinner caused me to now feel nauseous. But that's pure speculation.
That's causal.
I don't
That's what
know.
they're talking about.
That's what I
They're
think.
causal creatures.
Causal, what did you call it, inference?
Yeah, causal inference.
But I have no actual proof of that.
No,
But I have a somatic experience in my body,
Right.
something is wrong, and now I'm attributing it to something. Is it even right or rational for me to even attribute it to something, knowing what we now know about
but you will.
my flawed, well, I will.
Yeah.
But then you can defend anyone who says, well, I took this pill and now I feel better,
Yeah.
therefore the pill
Right.
made me feel better.
Right.
So, you see, I'm trying to be the devil's advocate, but also saying, we do this, we all do this. We all say,
That's what Michael Shermer says.
I got sick because,
Yeah.
I feel better because.
Yeah,
But it's perfectly reasonable as your first guess. As long as you don't say, this proves it, no question
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, eating shrimp causes me
well,
to,
I
have a
think,
bad
you know,
stomach.
if you have it like for hours and hours and hours, I think you might do better to like visit emergency room and get your stomach pumped maybe or something. You might have eaten something that really made you sick.
Yeah, but I mean, if you had indigestion
Yeah,
after eating something that you
Right.
don't often eat,
right. Or something highly spicy.
a good first guess is that's what did
Yeah.
it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
exactly.
That needs verification,
Yeah.
but it's a good first guess.
But how am I to verify it?
By eating it the same serving, a couple of weeks later. see
I
what
would,
that-
I don't know about that.
However,
Because what you're really saying is, it's just like taking a pill, and now I feel better, so it must be the pill. Why is that any different?
Well,
Why do you have to
actually-
say it must be? You could always say, it may well
it
be.
it could.
Bayesian inference that has raised the probability that
Well, I
pill
would
did it.
certainly, if I kept having the pain for like a week or 2 or 3, I would start thinking about maybe going to a doctor or something,
But we, so
But
we have
usually
to
it
make a
goes away.
decision.
Yeah.
In any case. we
Well,
have to make a
actually,
decision.
now, you're all gonna ask me for the reference, and I can't tell you, but it was in the Skeptical Inquirer quite a number of years ago, but they were like, as they always like to attack homeopathy. But it was interesting because they were saying that, and these were all, like respectable researchers, that a lot of things just go away because the body heals itself.
Yeah.
And you probably didn't really need to go to the doctor. About 50% of things heal themselves. Of course, this gets tricky as you get older because the body doesn't, your immune system doesn't work as well. But, things heal themselves as well as if they went to the doctor or if they took homeopathic.
Yeah, homeopathy is just a joke.
Oh, that is terrible. That is awful.
I even knew an otherwise intelligent
That
woman who
is
fell
awful.
for it.
Is there two definitions of that word, homeopathic? I know that one definition is the micrograms of things
In
that are supposed to
a
make you sick.
diluted liquid,
Yeah.
yeah.
But is there another definition as well? Because I see it in other contexts, like they say homeopathic zinc. But there's a lot of zinc in this lozenge, and it says homeopathic on it.
This blessed by his,
Jim took this stuff that his doctor, again, a medical doctor recommended. This stuff works as well. What is it? They've done these tests on it, and it works just as well for helping relieve cold symptoms. So maybe they're all placebos. I don't know, but his doctor told him to take that
Try it.
instead of, because our doctors won't give you, like for a cold or
Anything.
antibiotics, which is very good.
that's
I'm
very
glad
good
that
for
they
them,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Good.
you try it, and if it works, fine.
It works just as well.
If it works each time, you're onto something.
Yeah, that's it.
Highly
Each time.
unlikely, but if it works each time, you're onto
There's
something.
not much for a cold anyway, so.
But having something that suggests a hypothesis to you is a good thing.
Yeah.
As long as you don't carve it in stone
Yeah.
immediately.
That's it.
Yeah.
But because we're not clinical researchers, what are we to really do? Jim said, try it again,
Yes.
but even that wouldn't be considered a real scientific study. I mean,
We can't ask for, there's a limit to the precision we can ask for.
yeah, so we're guessing, we're doing our best at guessing, but it's still a radically imperfect
It is.
method, being a human being and trying to be an atheist. Being
It's a
objective.
mildly imperfect method, moderately imperfect
Yeah,
method.
it is, it's hard, it's hard.
What other examples could I give you? I mean, I have flat feet, and so I wear arch supports, and I feel that the arch supports actually help my feet feel better because I'm wearing them, but I don't know that because I haven't not worn them for years.
Yeah.
I've always worn them, so how would I know whether it's really the arch supports?
Why do you care after a while?
Yeah, I really
Life
don't.
is short.
Yeah.
We only have time for.
Yeah.
I have arch supports, and I know that if I don't wear them, the feet begin to say, yeah, what are you doing? Are you
And
nuts?
he didn't
And that-
always wear them.
That's a rational
Right.
hypothesis, I would agree
The
with that.
feet start to scream.
But,
What are you doing?
we're making these choices without, having a well-designed study. We're using
No, we
a
don't.
subjective.
All I had was
information.
the x-rays, and the
Oh, yeah,
doctor
x-rays.
saying, if I'm gonna give you this, here, these are, we pass these out to people, and it's free anyway.
Yeah.
And he said, you keep those in your feet, and your arches will feel better.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they felt better, but consequently, years later, If I don't wear them, I've experimented. If I don't wear the, I say, I can take these out today.
You've tried it.
I can't work with it. I have to have them.
Really.
Yes, it's a,
But does information itself have a placebo effect? So that if I
Sure.
give you, if you say, well, you have a pain, and I say, oh, I had that pain and my pain went away in 2 days.
yeah.
Is that a placebo effect in and of itself?
I
to
think
give you
so
that
sometimes,
information?
sure,
Could be,
if you
sure,
trust the
possibly.
person you talk to,
Sure.
sure.
Hmm.
It's tricky.
Do you have a reference either here or on your site about Bernadette of Lourdes downplaying her miracles?
Yeah. No, I don't have my references with me.
That's okay.
Can you
I
look
look
for
on
the
it.
site?
No, I
Yeah.
don't have references.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's at the bottom of the article?
Yeah.
I would
The lecture?
suspect that it's probably, if I'm remembering correctly, it's probably in the Randy book, but
Okay.
I won't swear to it.
I need to place myself in this discussion because
Yes.
people suspect the worst. I don't believe in any of this CAM stuff. I think it's all garbage. And in fact, I'm a little disturbed tonight because you're preaching to the choir. There's, nobody here that.
Well, remember
needs
now,
to be-
we have a huge
Oh,
audience.
you have, that's right.
They're not huge, but
Not
it's
huge.
large,
There are a
it's
few
large.
people who tune in and check this out.
Did check this out, and there's
Okay.
other people, there's, now CFI, I'm really sorry because it's so hard to get to Grand Rapids, it's a long trip and a long trip back, especially as we get older. They have a real expert in CAM who's like, got all kinds of scientific degrees and et cetera.
Who's
And
that?
he's giving a talk. Just look on the CFI Michigan. And I'm so sorry to miss it, because he's doing it on CAMS and alternative medicine, because Center for Inquiry, is really engaged in a real fight with that.
What is his name?
I can't
You
remember his
remember.
name, Norm,
Okay.
I'm sorry,
I
but
should
do
know it.
CFI Michigan, and you'll
Okay.
find it. If anybody can go to that talk, I'm sure it'll be very, very worthwhile.
I was brought up Catholic, of course, and to hear that Bernadette maybe said her miracles weren't very miraculous.
Yeah,
That
well,
would be
apparently
something.
she said them to people. Now, we don't have her on, we don't have
Uh-huh.
a video of her or a tape recording, and the people may have misreported it.
Yeah. What do you, John Templeton, what do you think about John Templeton? I can't quite place him.
Well, the Templeton Institute now, I think, since he's passed away, I think his son, or sons, or his son at least, I think that they're becoming, they've really softened their image now. In fact, I think they work with the Pew Survey on religion. So I hope that that's still accurate, because they've combined forces, but, Sonny Baines, and you'll find that, now which of my lectures, I can't remember, it's the electrophysicist, I think that he is, has accused them outright of, slanting studies and slanting research to
Okay.
prove that there's some, like religious, function. But I think of late, they have not done very much like that since Sir John Templeton himself passed away.
That's what you thought of John Templeton, that he was a fanatic who.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Wouldn't put it past him.
They have an agenda.
Yeah,
Yes.
how much the agenda, they've
Yeah.
softened their image, but how much they're still at that, I'm
No,
not
I wouldn't-
sure.
I wouldn't
trust
He
him.
made his money in the Templeton mutual funds.
Yeah,
So he's not a scientist. His goal was to show that, religion affected our health and
yeah,
prayer.
it's not just health, I mean,
And everything.
it's science and everything.
You
In
want-
other words, if there was a correlation between religion and science, I think he may have been sincere that he was hoping to find that, and of course, they didn't find that in that big step intercessory prayer thing, I mean,
Right.
but Sonny Baines has called on a whole bunch of, like any scientist, he's asked them not to contribute any work to them at all.
And I think where this lecture is most important is that it's finding its way into the mainstream medicine, where the doctors are saying, your spirituality is going to
Yeah.
help you.
That's
with
very
your cure
frightening.
for cancer or whatever, that, you should be attending your church regularly, if you're terminal or whatever, it'll give you longer life. So I think it is relevant
Well,
for
do you
us.
remember, do you know that lady on Good Morning America, the black lady, Robin, what's her name? Can't remember, she's extremely popular. Okay, well, she just had a terrible kind of a blood cancer thing and everything, and sometimes I tune into it in the morning when I'm doing my tooth regime. And I caught her that morning, and she was like getting her bone marrow transplant, and, you know, they had balloons there and blah, 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 and she was, they also had this big prayer thing. And of course, she's since gotten better, and I noticed that she was addressing some audience, and this was just a soundbite, but she was telling people that, you know, faith was really important.
Yeah, they all believe.
Yeah, so, you know,
So that still is the ethical dilemma that I want to return to, is that if somebody is going to feel better, then why deny it to them? I'm not saying we should, but
Well,
I
I
have to
wouldn't.
have the answer. If they're terminal, and you know
I
that there's
wouldn't.
nothing you can do for them,
you know, I wouldn't deny them. I mean, I'm not one of those really fanatic atheists, you know.
I'm not sure. I mean, is it okay to give someone an illusion?
No, I don't think it's okay, but if they have it, I don't think it's right to burst it. Okay, I mean, I would not do that at that point.
But does that mean a
I
doctor
wouldn't
shouldn't
give
tell
them
the
the
patient
illusion.
that they're terminal?
No, they should tell them that they're terminal.
But that's in itself is a burst, is a bombshell.
Sure. But you know, if you're an atheist, you're more than likely you're not going to turn to religion at that point. I mean, some people do, but it's very unlikely if you're a real dyed-in-the-wool atheist. But if you're religious and you want to believe that maybe God will intervene in your case, because you're so wonderful,
For whatever reason.
for
unknown
whatever damn reason there is, I would not.
But I'm speaking for the healthcare professional. They're the ones that would have to be faced with this sort of decision where, you know, whether to recommend spirituality or not recommend, or to
Well,
say,
I've heard
I'm
people
neutral.
say that you know, the doctor has told them to pray or something, you know, and I don't think that that's right. I think that what the doctor should say, if you're religious, you might try prayer at this time, or if you're a believer or whatever, you know. I think that would be okay, but to ask is to say if you're religious. There's an assumption in this country that you're religious.
You are religious.
Like Jim was in the hospital for something, it wasn't even that serious, and one of the healthcare workers there was very nice, and all of a sudden she wanted to know if we wanted to, you know, like contribute to some masses being said
Yeah.
Oh, contribute.
for Jim. See, I mean, it was like almost like she just segued into that before we even realized.
No, you contribute to me getting out of here.
Yeah, as quickly as possible. So you're just, how do you stop that? I don't know how to stop that, you know.
You don't participate in it.
Yeah, you just don't participate. You say no,
But
thank you.
I'll give you another example that's, you know, a dilemma, is that Deborah's father was in a coma, and, you know, he was slowly dying. There was just no hope really that he was gonna wake up again because of his illness, and the nurse came in and said, well, you have to let him know that it's okay for him to go. You can't show him, even though he's in a coma, you can't let him know that, you know, you're so traumatized by his pending death. You have to tell him that, you know, it's okay to go.
That might be a
And-
good psychological thing for
But
the
isn't
family.
that's also a pure act of faith, because he probably wasn't
But
able
they
to
say
hear anything.
sometimes people can hear things when they're in a coma, so.
But it's for she may not know it, but she's doing that for the living.
I think so.
She's doing that for the living so that their sense of guilt,
Yeah,
so they can
because it's
release,
very
they can
hard
begin to wean
watching.
themselves and get used to the idea that dad is going to die.
Yeah.
But is that ethical, because she's not being direct in her prescription, right? She's doing it out of this same faith-based
Yeah,
business, is
Mhm.
that not God, but this dying person has
Yeah.
to know, has to be,
She may not know it, she may think it's all true, right?
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe, and they do say that sometimes people in comas can hear certain things, so.
But she wouldn't know that, there's no way.
No.
There's no way to measure
Speculate.
it. We don't know
Everything is
that.
No, there's
speculation.
no
None of
way to
us
know
know
it.
that.
So here she is in a healthcare, remember, this was
Yeah.
a nurse,
Well, what do you think?
and I thought it was gibberish, I thought it was complete nonsense, but maybe Deborah was reassured, it wasn't my fault, it was hers. You know, maybe she was reassured by that.
Maybe she felt
as
better.
well, but
Did she do it?
She talked to him, I don't remember actually what she said, but she talked to him, you know, of course, yes, you know, he died.
I talked to my mother while she was dying. I mean, you know, I don't know what point she didn't hear me anymore, but
Mm.
it's really hard to sit there and, you know, watch a loved one die for hours.
It feels a lot better if you talk. I have
Yeah.
Done
Yeah.
as
Yes.
the living one,
Yeah, yeah.
you feel like such a vulture if you just sit there and don't say anything.
Well, yeah, it's a
You wanna
horrible feeling.
communicate.
Well, I think you wanna hang on to the person too, like that they still can hear you, yeah,
Yeah.
that's important.
My sister, my mother died a couple of months ago. My
Sorry to hear
sister,
that.
yeah, she was 97, so.
Wow.
you know.
Oh.
Good genes, huh?
Yes, good genes. Of course, she took a lot better care of herself than I ever did.
Uh-oh.
But my sisters actually went for that without, they told her that it was okay to go. They said, you know,
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night, we're going home now, we'll be back in the morning, but if you feel like, you know,
Well, that's
you want to go
interesting.
tonight, then, you know, don't let us
Oh,
hold you
my
back,
gosh.
you should go when you want. They thought that was the right thing to do. They did, if someone had told them to do that, they didn't tell me that that's what happened.
Mhm.
I bet that they did it on their own.
I think they did it on their own.
That's interesting.
Yeah, good.
But it's assuming that this dying person has this ability to say, now I'm going to die.
Well, yeah, they
Yeah.
don't really. They don't really. Of course, again, there you have
Maybe
that
they-
placebo effect or whatever effect it is. Sometimes
the
people
reverse.
will wait till they can see somebody
Oh, you
and then
didn't,
they'll
yeah,
go.
you
Yeah.
didn't mention about the tribal people who believe if there's a curse uttered against them, that they're going to drop
And
dead.
they lay down and
Drop
they
dead.
do,
They lay
they
down, they
die.
don't drop dead, but they lay down and they
Die.
die. Well, because I didn't
Is that-
mention it because frankly, I was trying to do Western.
Yeah, it's,
And I don't have explanation for Eastern things.
okay.
I didn't even want to get into that, but that is interesting. Maybe that's another, that's gotta be another placebo.
I have a lot more comments also to make. I don't want to
Please
dominate
do
the
go
conversation, but
on.
We're
the
listening.
people that I run into in my daily life, you know, it's not the fundamentalist Christians. It is these nuts that believe in this kind of spiritual healing
I
and
know,
this,
they're worse than the Christians.
this quantum silliness, you know, that we're all connected, the universe is benign and is going to help us if we just ask for help.
Isn't that silly?
Mm.
Things like this. So I still am a dilemma and a loss, because I do respect these people. I don't want to belittle them. But I am at a loss, you know, how to deal with them, how to help them understand that this is an illusion that they've created.
Well, you can see they've gone to the lengths of taking quantum mechanics. Yeah.
There's one very good physicist that calls it quantum flapdoodle.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. I mean, they've gone to the lengths of trying to say that they are still controlling the universe and their health and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes people feel better. To me, I don't think most people that believe that are going to believe, you know, any reason, any scientific reason, because they don't want
So
to.
what would be an appropriate response? I mean, should I just ignore it? Should I just let it go like it was just a Christian belief?
I
Or
let
should
it go
say-
a lot of times. If they start getting crazy and start trying to get me to take something or do something, then I just tell them I don't accept it. I say, oh, you probably will think I'm terrible, but I won't do anything that my medical doctor doesn't advise. I know you probably think that that's awful. And
disregard
that's not
it, too.
always true, because I don't always do what my medical doctor advises. I check around, I get second opinions. Yeah, but
I'm a
yeah.
very passive atheist, and some of my friends give me grief for that.
I know, but you know, there's a certain point, I think when you get to a certain age particularly, I don't like to beat my head against the wall. And I don't endure
say,
fools gladly, I just get so
I'm not
sick
involved
of it.
in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just tell them, oh no, I couldn't do that, you know, oh no, yeah.
This idea that CAM really came out of the 90s is really
It's when they grew.
misleading, because we've had quack cures forever.
Forever,
right?
but you know what,
yeah.
it got really big.
Heavy duty.
But that was because all the stuff before it was being discarded. There had to be something
Yeah.
to take its place.
Yeah.
But all this, you know, snake oil medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in the 70s, it was Laetrile.
Yeah.
It was gonna cure cancer.
Yeah.
Then you had the magnetic fields were gonna cure things.
Yeah.
So I see it more as a continuum rather than suddenly we discovered
But you
this
see how it
holistic.
exploded, I mean, the money that's spent on it.
And you, in your talk, I think you had a typo there, you said 34 million. It should-
36 million, I believe,
I think
yeah.
it's gotta be billion, couldn't be.
What's the figure for?
For CAM medicine in the United States.
Every year, billion?
What was, if you
I
could
think it
find
was
the quote.
36 million a year, I know what it
That
is.
would, that people spend on
Yeah.
it? I agree,
gotta be
billion, gotta be
You think
billion.
I know that sounds incredibly a lot.
All right, you know what, I'll look
We
that
have
up,
a
I'm
trillion
sorry
dollars
if I
looking up.
typoed it, I'm sorry.
That's worth looking up to see if it isn't.
Definitely.
I
larger.
usually check my figures though before I, finalize the
A
paper.
year, that'd be 3 million a month spread over the entire country, that's
Yeah.
just not a lot.
There seems to be
And-
more goods on the shelves than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Every time the FDA says we're going to start to regulate supplements,
They start up a huge,
there's a huge anti-backlash lobbying from
yeah.
these supplement manufacturers.
When we go in for our like vitamin D and stuff, they want you to sign petitions for it, so that the
Say-
government won't regulate
Yeah.
it. Yeah, they think we're part of their,
But then they point the finger at the big pharma and they say, you see, the
Yeah.
big pharma,
Mhm.
they're only after money. But then these supplement people say, oh, protect us from the FDA that's trying to squash us.
They should regulate it.
Definitely.
They really should
Definitely.
regulate.
It may be too late.
Now, that's worth looking up and see if it isn't in the.
Okay, I'm sorry if
In
I
the
made
billions
a
somewhere.
mistake.
Yeah.
I do know though that what we were just talking about, that Americans aren't that silly because they do use it. They go to their medical doctors and then they buy this stuff
On
or
top
go to
of
a
it.
practitioner on top of it. I can't tell you how many people that'll tell you that they're really into cam and spiritual, blah, blah, blah. And you'll find out that they're getting all the tests that you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, because it's like insurance, go both ways and see what works.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, they're just hedging all their bets, it's like, all right, if this doesn't work, that'll work,
So in Europe, with socialized medicine, what is the experience of CAM? Is it just as popular as here, or is it much less popular?
That I don't know, but Europe pays for, or used to, let's say, I think France used to pay for aromatherapy, some aromatherapies. I think that they pay for some treatments,
Is that right?
yeah, but now exactly how much, again,
Okay.
I think we regulate chiropractors better here, because when I read Ernst Izzard's book, it sounded like the chiropractors were like really, really unethical there.
In Europe?
Yeah, I think, did I tell you this experiment? No, they had this, this elderly gentleman, and he took his so-called granddaughter. She really wasn't. She was like a pretty healthy child. And they went around to different chiropractors. And I think they went around to about 12, and I think 7 or 8 of them, once they did all their practitioner things on her, or whatever they do, like let him know that she had this condition and that condition, and she was in very bad shape for a child that age,
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think it's as bad here, I'm not sure, but I don't think so. It's really scary, there's some studies that are showing that if they manipulate the neck, that can, in a certain way, that can set off a blood clot, and you can get a stroke.
Yeah, I've read that too. I read it a long time ago and
Yeah.
like 10 years.
Okay, I just read it
And
somewhere.
have yet to see anything in the paper or the, that I put a lot of faith in. And yeah, Alfred J. Landon got killed.
I think it's very difficult to prove that, because they've
Well,
had
of
some,
course it
they've
would, yeah.
prosecuted some cases in England, and they haven't been able to get, a guilty verdict. But let's put it this way, I'd never go and have one of them touch my neck.
Well, I don't use them at all. Don't think they know what they're
Our
talking about.
son went to one because he had a bad back, and I was screaming at him on the phone about don't let him touch your neck, whatever you do, because
Yeah.
they'll do it for a bad back, and I explained that to him, and he didn't. But the weird thing was, he and his partner went down, it was a place by the Grand Canyon, they went down
Oh,
by
yeah.
chains and
Is
ladders.
that right?
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I found, they told us after they did it, and they were, of course, very, very happy, okay?
Yeah.
That they had done this, because they were in their early 50s, oh, great. But it was odd, because Dimitri said after all that, and the walking too, that they were doing miles and miles and miles. He said he had a few back spasms, and then the back got better. So I wonder if some of it wasn't a little bit of psychosomatic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't, because why would it get better? It would seem like it would get worse.
Well, it seems like, every once in a while, my back gets bad on me too, and after a while, it gets better.
Yeah, Jim's
Well,
does
yeah, I
too,
mean, so
Jim, but Jim has
saying-
arthritis in it, so that makes sense.
Another important point, I think, is that some of the placebos, or the placebo effects, are actually unintentional because they're procedures or medication that is claimed to work, but could be shown to be ineffective for that particular ailment, and yet, you know, the person reports feeling better. I can even use myself, because at one time I was given antibiotics, and I said, you know, gee, I feel better. But
Yeah.
the doctor corrected me, said, well, it must be the placebo effect, because what you have wouldn't immediately
Respond.
have made you feel better within a
I'm
matter of
surprised
days.
the doctor
He was
actually
honest
said
enough
that.
to say that.
Yeah,
but
they're
even in my
never
own
honest
case,
enough usually.
I had a subjective feeling of feeling better, but, you know, there's other cases where, you know, medication that has been on the market for years has really been shown to be ineffective, and yet people still report, you know, that it is good. And Pete, you had asked for some citations, and I'll send you those. And it's not just in the antidepressant field, it's in a lot of these former medicines are no longer even on the market
Yeah,
because
Norm really follows this stuff up. He's, he
they're just not
knows
effective.
this stuff very well.
Surgery,
Pharmacist or something?
no, I'm just an interested
Just
consumer.
interested party, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, both for my own self, but also for people, you know, that I know and I care about,
Yeah.
you know, doing things. So, I'm trying to think of some other examples where there would be a surgery that was done, and yet it couldn't have possibly had the effect that
Yeah.
the patient
Yeah,
claims that it would have
Yes.
had.
yeah.
Genital mutilation.
Yeah,
Circumcision, you know, they
yeah.
claim a lot for
Oh,
circumcision.
God.
That's the early doctors, they said, well, I circumcised this boy, this was in the 19th century, and now his legs are no longer paralyzed, he
Yeah.
can walk, things like that. It's just
It's
absurdity.
insane.
But just doing something to someone has an effect,
Yeah.
either psychologically or biologically. You put somebody in a hospital, they have to lie down for a few
They
days.
feel better. Yeah.
But you've altered their normal routine anyway, so
Yeah.
biologically you have affected them, because
Yes.
even just being in a
Yeah,
hospital
it's
bed
just-
recovering
Yeah.
might be a vacation from
Yeah.
whatever else, you know,
Stress.
was bothering them.
It's really tricky, this mind-body connection, you know, like you mentioned, these people that, you know, the witch doctor puts a curse on them, and they lie down and die, you know, it's fascinating.
I don't know if this ever been proven, but there's plenty of
I
reports.
think that there's a lot of, yeah,
of the
reports
deaths
of it.
of,
I don't think
like,
anybody
curse.
understands it, but
Yeah, that's another one I want.
You
I'd
want some proof?
When Richard Dawkins reports on it, maybe I'll believe it.
Oh my
really.
God, can't you
Mm-hmm.
see Richard like flying out? I think the natives now though have had so much contact, most of them,
Oh, I
with
wouldn't
the
trust
civilized
that.
world, I wouldn't.
Now,
you
the
know,
research now
They probably never lie down and die anymore, yeah.
is contaminated.
Yeah, they're
You-
contaminated.
We've
You-
contaminated it.
You had mentioned a number of causes of why this CAM stuff appears to work, you know, expectation bias, confirmation
Yeah.
bias, et cetera. There's another one which I'm gonna call the gunshot method, which is that if you go to a naturopath, he or she is gonna give you a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Oof.
that's a good
I
one
want you to do
too.
this, I want you to do this, I
Yeah.
want you to do this, and you do this.
Yeah.
And it's just this gunshot effect
Yeah,
that says, you know, boy, I'm doing all these things.
Mhm.
One of them, even if the other ones
It's
don't
gonna
work,
work.
it's gotta be one of them anyway that's gonna work.
yeah, yeah.
You can call that a placebo effect, maybe one of them did work.
Yeah, you never, you
We'll
know.
do all these things.
Yeah, yeah.
And just by some dumb luck
Yeah.
chance.
Something
uh,
works. Well,
You know, when you talk about herbs, a lot of our medicines come or
From
came
herbs.
originally from herbs.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to discount, you know, all herbal therapies immediately
No.
and say, no. The cranberry juice has been shown
Yeah.
in studies to prohibit the bacteria from sticking to the urethra, to the inner wall of the urethra.
Yeah, but you
make
know
it
what,
acidic.
that stuff has a lot of sugar, and if you've got, like, believe me, if you've got
There's
a
other
bladder, a
complications.
woman, a bladder infection, the sugar will probably give you a nice yeast infection,
infection,
and then
right.
you'll go back and forth, yeah.
So there's, yeah.
Yeah,
there's
you
risk.
have to be extremely careful with that stuff, extremely careful.
I agree. But I think we could talk for hours about this stuff. It's really it's sort of an untapped world for a lot of atheists. The skeptics, the people that are more focused on skepticism
Yeah.
rather than atheism, they probably would be able to add a lot more.
Yeah, to this. Yeah.
Have you heard of Louise Hay? She's
No, I
another
have not.
quack theorist.
No, I
said
have
cancer
not.
is caused by emotion.
Oh,
That, you have bitterness in your body and it's anger in your body and it's manifested in
that is so
cancer.
typical, and that is so, I hate people like that, I really do. I mean, some of those practitioners I laugh about, but, it makes people feel so bad when
Right,
they
yeah.
get sick.
Yeah, so this idea is that illness is caused by something that you did or you
Yeah.
could have
It's
prevented,
your,
Yeah.
yeah.
not because the body isn't perfect.
I had the misfortune, I think I told you once, Norm, that I went to a aromatherapy thing because I like perfumes. Pete, I like perfumes, and like an idiot. And I hadn't researched it. I was in my business at the time and I was busy, and I went to East Lansing with two ladies to learn how to blend scents. This is what I thought, duh. Well, almost everybody there was like into some kind of cam or whatever, and they were into spirituality, and I was going nuts, and I was stuck. I mean, Jim was watching the business, this is it. Spend the weekend, have fun, everybody. We
Oh,
slept
dear.
overnight there, we heard it over breakfast. And the ladies I drove up with were crazy, but they were talking about that the one was dating a widower, and they were saying that his passed away wife, his deceased wife, had just retired, and she had started painting and everything, and then she got some kind of a blood disease similar to leukemia or something like that, and passed away, and then they were going, something wrong there, she didn't do something.
Yeah.
She was hanging on to some, just what you were saying,
See.
some
Bitterness.
anger or
Yeah.
something, and it didn't
Yeah.
work.
Louise, you're making me so angry.
Yeah, yeah, and it was really sad. I mean, I was thinking, they wanted to make themselves feel better.
Sure.
You know what it was, that, you won't get it if you do all these good things.
Mhm.
And that's just not true.
Positive
Because you know
thoughts.
what? I mean, you can, Jim and I try to eat properly and we exercise and everything like that, but your gene can go wrong, boom, just like that, and you've got cancer.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
But what about the idea that the people who are silly enough to believe in this stuff actually have a better outcome because of that sort of that positive affirmation? That is, you're dumb enough to believe it,
You know
but that
what?
has a placebo.
They have done studies, and
Yeah.
they've shown that people, like, how they were saying that people that were in those encounter group, that they were going to group therapy, it would increase their lifespan. Women that had cancer
Yeah.
and stuff, they were just
Doesn't.
coercing people, because when they did follow-ups, they found out that it didn't really increase their lifespan at all, or like by 2 days or something.
But I'm thinking of the entrepreneur who's just driven by this blind faith that he's going to be successful versus the realist who says, I don't have a chance if I start my own business.
Yeah,
It's more
I like
likely
that.
I'm going to fail. Well, every now and then, the blind
Sure.
faith, the Thomas Edison that just keeps trying
Sure.
a light bulb over and over again, he finally gets it right.
Yeah, but I mean, he has like a good idea, but a lot of people
Well,
don't.
he had a lot of bad ideas.
Yeah, yeah,
But he kept
okay.
trying, so,
Yeah.
persistence
Yeah.
is 99% of the
Sure.
success. So that's what I'm struck by, is that these people that are just sort of too stupid to realize that, they don't have much of a chance, but that's why they win, because they keep trying.
Nothing wrong with that, I mean,
But for every one of those, there's 10 who don't.
That fail, and I'm not seeing those.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing that one guy
Yeah, yeah.
that was successful.
Because that's what they tout in the
Survival
media.
bias.
Is that what it's called?
I think.
Yeah,
Because
I'm not
I'm not seeing all the
surprised.
failures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we see that in our whole world, everything
Yeah,
that,
all over the place,
that
yeah.
seems to be successful, whether it's a building or whether it's a business, like, wow, they must really have the magic, they must really know some profound wisdom.
Sometimes it's just luck.
And one of the
Yeah.
reasons is spelled L-U-C-K.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the
My
period.
dad was very good in business, but he always said that a
L-U-C-K.
strong element of luck.
Yeah. You'll be
Yeah.
happy
He
to
never took
explain
a
it
lot
to
of
you.
credit, yeah, he never had any explanation other than, yeah, you do what you should, I mean, you do all the right things, but at the same time, that there's a big element of luck.
You work
always
hard.
said.
They do
Yeah.
work, they always
Yeah,
work hard.
they work very hard.
Yeah.
That's a necessary condition.
Yeah.
That's
But
one of the
some people-
conditions that
Not
go, no matter whether you
sufficient.
succeed or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they
So-
all have to work hard.
Yeah.
Like the
Right.
pyramids, we look at the pyramids and say, wow, those Egyptians, they were just amazing, you know, how could they possibly do this?
The slaves did it.
But yeah, not only the slaves did it, but there was this blind faith
Yeah.
that doing this would restore the pharaoh, you know,
Yeah.
to his
Mhm.
afterworld.
Sounds
You
good.
had to have
You know,
it.
that whole civilization seems to have been given up to like, death. It's so weird. I mean,
Yeah.
they had an exhibit at Toledo the last time our son was home, or was it it was a time before. And I just got creeped out. I don't like that ancient civilization at all, as much as I like ancient civilization. I said, Dimitri, this is really just creeping me out, I'm
Yeah.
like going to the gift shop. Now, he's fascinated by it, and
Yeah.
yet he's a very optimistic
I've got to
person.
get in a comment or two about intercessory prayer,
Oh,
which we
yeah.
haven't
Sure.
done much with.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I don't believe in any of it,
Of
so,
course.
but the study, the prayed for study, that's comical. Now, you said that the priests and so forth would have tried to take credit for it if it had turned out
I'm
that
sure.
it
Oh,
would.
yeah.
I'm
I'll-
sure.
I'll grant you that. However, I think they have a perfectly valid reason to say, I don't accept this as a criticism of intercessory prayer.
Yeah, right.
Come on, I'm sitting here and I'm gonna pray for what? Paul R.?
Yeah, I know.
Dear
that's
God,
a joke.
please help Paul R. It's someone I don't even know.
Well, I think that was actually, though, I mean, I thought it was funny when I had read them and the things, but apparently they were trying to keep people on point to just pray for that one person.
Well, I've never seen
That's
this
what they
person,
say.
I don't know. Who
But
is
that's
it?
not unusual.
So that they wouldn't pray for the whole
The whole
congregation.
blast,
Yeah.
dissipate it.
If,
the whole
if
group
you're a
of
member of a
people.
congregation and you
Yeah.
say, my father is dying,
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
know,
they'll all
please,
pray.
Father, can you pray for him?
yeah, they all
The
pray.
father would do that. Say,
Yeah,
"Let's-
and
let's
they,
pray."
yeah, the whole
Yeah.
damn congregation.
You
will
know,
pray.
the rabbis,
There's nuns too, that, I don't know if they still are alive, but there used to be cloistered nuns and they would just pray for peace all the time.
Yeah.
Or for the ill or whatever, you
Mhm.
know, I certainly took up the day when you're cloistered behind there, there's not much to do.
I can't believe that a person would get the right emotion, the right state of faith, whatever it is, when given a little
Oh, I
5 by
see
8
what you
card
mean.
said,
Well, that's why you can't measure religion, yeah,
Yeah, okay, I agree.
Yeah.
It's not a.
How do you
it's not-
study it? Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't study, you don't
That's
study.
why they
Not
did it.
everything has to be a science. It
No.
isn't science versus hogwash. It's science is the city of lights, up on top of the hill, a city on the hill.
yeah, I agree,
And
that, yeah.
everything
Yeah.
else is something different.
But,
it's
you
not
know,
all
when you
crap.
try to take something subjective like religion, and what they were trying desperately for a while, I think, to prove, you see, this works, and now,
Yeah.
we all
Mhm.
rush to church, or we all pray or whatever, and of course it fizzled out.
I'm sure that's what they were trying.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
question, no
Was there
question.
something going on in the middle of the last decade that prompted all of these studies?
I think
at the
that
same
Great
time?
Awakening, at least in the United States.
But this, you cite studies from 2004,
Yeah,
2005.
well, money too, the Templeton money and other money.
The Templeton.
I think that's what's going on, and that faith stuff that was, so big for a while. And it's still big, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's dissipating, they've had enough studies now where they, it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
But people still, when Jim recovered from his heart attack, there were people coming up to me and saying God is good. What would they have said if he had died?
Yeah.
They
What would
were
the comment
irritating.
have been
They
then?
were
He's with
irritating.
God.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were irritating the hell out of me.
Wasn't helpful.
Going, Jesus Christ, what is the matter with you people? Well, they were trying to be nice.
They're trying to be nice.
They were trying.
Yeah,
I agree with
you
you.
know.
Comforting.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, I said thank
No, I
you.
don't think they were trying to be sarcastic.
No,
No, they're trying to be
they were
comforting.
They were being nice, they were religious, Thank you, everyone, for your participation in this wonderful discussion.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Very welcome.